I'm starting a new project. Yes, that's right, another one. And today, with the beautiful changeable weather that we've got and the current high tide, I feel it's the perfect time to begin this project. Let's go. Welcome back to the Moray Coast, the part of the world that I was brought up in and that many of you have come along to enjoy workshops with me. All of you who have ever been here will know just how beautiful this coastline is, and even if you've just seen it on my YouTube channel, you'll know it's a very diverse, beautiful coastline with a lot of stunning locations to photograph. But what I'm thinking is, because I've photographed this coastline since I began photography, and even though I'm forever discovering new photographic opportunities, one thing I want to do is, now that I've got myself a full set of different strengths of ND filters, is start a project where I photograph all the iconic locations along this coastline as super long exposures. And by super long exposures, I'm talking about images over at least 8 minutes long. So we've got really silky smooth water, but also that motion in the clouds. It'll also allow me to see all of these iconic locations, or that I feel are iconic locations that I've captured throughout my photography life so far, in a whole new light. So it's all beginning today. To say it's high tide, and I'm going to head along to location number 1, which is the famous crossed groins in Fintorn. Image is currently being taken down there just now. I'm watching it very precariously because the tide's still coming in, so I need to just be careful that my camera doesn't get splashed or taken away by the tide. But I just want to say a quick thank you to everybody who left messages on the video I uploaded the other week about when I really struggled to do long exposure photography. All of your advice is very much appreciated. I've taken it all on board and I've learned a lot from it. So I can work out now roughly what I've done wrong, and I've been playing around with my camera and the app and all this, everything else since, and yeah, I'm very much aware of what went wrong now. So thank you all very much for that. So what I'm doing just now is I've stacked quite a few filters. I've got my polarizer, my 10-stop ND, my 3-stop ND, and my 3-stop medium grad filter as well, just to allow the sky to be a similar exposure to the foreground. And that's given me an exposure of just over 8 minutes, which is exactly what I was looking for. I did put my 20-stop filter on initially, but the exposure time for that was going to be about an hour, given the settings that I was using. So I scrapped that idea and stacked the filters to get the exposure time that I was looking for. So I'm excited to see how this image turns out. I hope it's going to be as exciting as I think it'll be. I took a quick 2-second exposure image with just one filter on before, and we're getting some motion in the clouds, but with this whole 8 minutes we should get that lovely silky clouds going above the groin there, and I'm really excited to see how this photograph turns out. Here's a moment of truth. Oh wow. So I wish I just got what just happened on camera, but I didn't. I've got a new filter system. So I'm sure you know, when you get a new filter system, the runs that the filters go into are quite tight, you know, because they're new, so you've not really used them. And I couldn't get the filters out. So I ended up pushing them out, and they went flying through the air and landed crash bang on the pebbles. And I've got a slight chip in the side, which is a shame, but the actual filters themselves, there's no scratches on them at all, and yeah, they're pretty much intact apart from this tiny little nook in the sides, which I think is amazing, because I've had filters in the past, you know, cheaper brands for instance, that I've used, and if I did that with them, they would be scratched to pieces right now. So yeah, it's really good actually to to have a filter set that doesn't do that. I'm just playing around now with just slightly slower shutter speeds. I've got a new composition now, so I'm now trying to get a very minimalist shot with some wide open sea on the left and the groin creeping in on the right of the image, so we'll see how that turns out. The water's now gushing into shore because we're getting pretty near high tide now. Yeah, let's just see how this image turns out. Oh, I really like that actually. Yeah, not bad at all. Yeah, just gonna play around and see what we can come up with. Now to the front of these groins. I'm just trying to get a different perspective here. I've tried to photograph these so many times and I'm just never happy with the composition. I've seen some other photographers shooting them and managing to nail it, but a lot of the images you see of these, it's very difficult to get the right sort of angles. So yeah, coming around to the front here, I'm just trying to see if I can capture something just that little bit different, and just yeah, sort of taking it from there really. Yeah, this sort of photo idea that I'm trying to conjure up just now, I'm wanting to try and get all these images just being colour, but I appreciate that sometimes long exposure shots look much better in black and white, so we'll see how things go. But yeah, it'd be really interesting to get all these iconic, all these locations that I know very well, shots as long exposures, and see what sort of portfolio of images we can come up with. So. This style of photography, because you've got a lot of waiting around to do, make sure you take some snacks with you. The great thing about somewhere like Fintorn is you've got this amazing shop called the Bakehouse, which sells all of these freshly made produce. They've got fruit and vegetables, they've got all these healthy foods, and they've got home bakes as well. They do dal, they do quiches, everything really. So I've got one of the Bakehouse flapjacks today. Absolutely love these. They're not too sweet, they're nice and crispy. Just, oh, the perfect food to keep your energy levels up when you're doing something like this. Look at this insane blanket of cloud that we've got now. It's just beautiful. I really like that last image that I just shot, that you've just seen, but I'm still not 100% happy with the composition. So what I'm going to do now is try and get this tripod as low to the ground as possible, so that I've got this image of me looking up at that foreboding sky. So there's not too much sea in this shot, just to see if I can get a different perspective. Tide's now retreating. We've hit high tide and it's going back out again. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get rid of my 10-stop filter and just keep my 3-stop in. Put my ND grad back on because of the style of photography I'm about to do. There's going to be a massive difference between the foreground and the sky. And I'm going to get myself down to beside the groin itself. What I'm hoping by doing that is I'm going to be able to get some images that are about half a second to 1 second long, so we can freeze that motion as the waves come in and out. Great thing to do in situations like this. final few minutes was so fun. So fun. Getting into the water's edge, having that water coming round the wooden stacks and try to capture it and freeze it as it came in and out and get that motion with that 1 second and then half a second exposure. I couldn't film too much of that because there was a group of kids that kept coming around and playing around me, so yeah, I've not got much B-roll from that part of the photo shoot there, but I'm really glad to have experimented with that. This morning I've gone from really long exposures to sort of medium long exposures to those quicker long exposures, those sort of 1 second exposures, which it's really fun to play around with actually. I'd encourage you all to do this when you're out and about doing photography. Just play around with your different exposure times and work with the water. Try smoothing it out so you've got that lovely dreamy effect, but then also try and use those quicker long exposure shots to have that motion as well. It really does make all the difference when you're out and about trying to get something a little bit more unique. So thank you all again for watching. It's been lovely to have you on the channel again. As always, I want to say a huge thank you for watching, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you all again next time.